What up, folks? What it do? Welcome to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. And it's your boy, comedian Mike Goodwin, the bow tie comedian. So, again, thank you so much for joining me on another episode. And as I always kick it off each and every podcast with the On the Road Again segment. But before I say that, I must say I am a big fan of the blue blazer. This is one of my favorite clothing items. I don't even think I wear it enough, but when I do, I really like the classic style of a 2-button, gold button, blue blazer. So shout out to all the folks that are still concerned about their appearance, their debonairness. Speaking of that, I'm also wearing this bow tie that is pretty significant. There's a clip that I recorded. It's been a number of years, but it's a clip talking about my fraternity. I'm a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. You may see the flag when I'm in my normal office recording. There's a flag in the back. And there's a clip online that I did this joke concerning the fraternity and older women. And on the video, this tie looks like it's the colors of black and gold. Now, black and gold are the colors of another fraternity. Shout out to Alpha Phi Alpha. They were founded in 1906 in Ithaca. No, they were founded in Ithaca, New York, Cornell University. A lot of good friends of mine. Matter of fact, one of my best friends in the world, he's a member of A Phi A. And so on the video, a lot of folks were like, nice black and gold tie you got on. Like, this is not a black and gold tie. It just had crappy video. So as you can see, this tie has some red in it. It's gold, but it's blue. It's not black. And no shade to any other fraternities. No shade at all. When I was an undergrad, that's what we did. Like, we had chants, we had sly remarks. One thing I'm noticing as I'm getting older, I very seldom even think about other organizations, negative or positive. Like, I just not. It's not a lot of bandwidth, right? And so I have a lot of younger nephews. They're members of Alpha also. Shout out to my nephews, which is fine, man. Like, I guess I don't know, man. I've gotten into this pretty cool place in life where, hey, man, y'all cool guys. And I don't have to denigrate you to make me feel good about my choice. But that's just a kind of the natural ribbing of being in a fraternity, especially in an NPHC group, which is the National Panhellenic Council. Interesting enough, there may be an opportunity to talk about this on the podcast in a later date, but there's some Christians that have issues with fraternities. Then there's just some people that just are pretty ignorant to Black Greek letter organizations. So shout out to the Divine Nine. But again, this bow tie, when I put it on, I was like, oh yeah, man, this is the tie with all the alphas on, and this video has gone viral. So there's a lot of members of Alpha in the comments. Not, well, sometimes in my comments, but in the comments, because another account posted it, and everybody was going on about the black and gold bow tie. Now, one thing I would be very able to wear black and gold bow tie because that's my high school colors. I went to Camden High School, and our colors are black and gold. So if you ever see me in a black and gold, that shout out to Camden. It's not to the alphas, man. Now I always got like a cool saying, which I have no problem giving people props. The alphas say that every great man is not an alpha, but every alpha is a great man. I think that's a very dope slogan, and much respect to the alphas. I got a lot of respect for alphas. A lot of influential folks. Matter of fact, Dr. Martin Luther King, who has been very influential in my life, probably the most influential figure I had outside of my family as a young person. Dr. King, when I was in the 3rd grade, we had dress up as someone that you admire, and I legitimately dressed up as Dr. King. I had a paper mustache that I wore to school, the Dr. King suit, and just in general of his courage and his life, I've taken quite a bit of his journey to heart, and he's been such an inspirational figure to me. Now, again, he's a flawed man. Not saying that he isn't. However, when I, as a 9-year-old, encountered him, his flaws were not apparent to me probably until I was in my mid-20s. So for the span of time that I knew who Dr. King was, had much respect and still do, admiration for his life and his legacy, it hits different. It hits different. So it's very, I wouldn't say sad, in this day of time that we live in, where folks, they just come to be, I say this often, we live in the era of the troll. We live in the era of the troll, and I just think people like to be antagonistic. So shout out to the Alpha, shout out to Dr. MLK. And again, he was very influential in my life, and I take great lessons. And he's a pillar. He's probably in the Mount Rushmore of individuals that I have looked at over the course of my years. But I also realized that I don't have to do everything Dr. King did. So I don't have to be in Dr. King's fraternity. I don't have to go to the school that Dr. King went to. And I think that's a lesson I've learned. You can be influenced by folks, but not try to be an imitation of the folks. So on the road, was just down in Orlando, Florida for the Hula Bowl. I did the Hula Bowl. The Hula Bowl is an all-star game for college football players. And for many, this may be their last time playing on the gridiron. And so there was a banquet that included induction of past Hula Bowl players. They honored Reggie White, the Minister of Defense, Willie Roof, if you remember him. It was a big offensive lineman, played a number of years for the Saints. Ron Simmons out of Florida State, he was also a wrestler. Some of the folks that they inducted. So there was a banquet that I did comedy for on Thursday night. And on Friday night, I did a set for the folks that played in a golf tournament, in a celebrity golf tournament. Burn the tape. Burn the tape. This was not good, people. If this weekend and at the Hula Bowl was the national championship game, I was TCU. I did not have the performance in which I wanted to have. Now, granted, bombing means different things to me. So if you talk to someone at the event, they would say, man, that guy was funny. He had a great set. But in terms of my personal standard and how I do what I do, burn the tape. There's nothing in that tape. Not much. There may be a little bit that I can garner. It was one of those. It was one of those days. It was one of those people. I'm talking about the whole time. That entire the entire event. There was I went and did it. Like I went I earned my stripes. I'll say that. Your boy earned his stripes. And if you know me personally, I can tell you all the ins and outs. There were some logistical things, microphone issues, technology issues, technical issues that made things very challenging for me. At the end of the day, Mike Goodwin is going to show up and I'm going to do what I was brought there to do. But in terms of my personal standard and how I execute my craft, woo! I was TCU, baby. I scored 7 points in the national championship game. It was not good. It was not good. Matter of fact, I was down in Orlando, and I guess wherever I was at, I noticed there was a Winn-Dixie there. If you're not familiar, Winn-Dixie is a grocery store that primarily is located in the South. And I had a joke about Winn-Dixie back in the day. But a lot of Winn-Dixies, I don't know if they've been bought by another organization and they've rebranded. But Winn was spelled Winn and Dixie, right? And so my joke that I actually did this joke one time, and I think there was a rep, maybe a high exec from Winn-Dixie at the actual show as a fundraiser. Again, if I'm not mistaken, it was in Florida. This time it was in Jacksonville. So the joke that I had, basically, if I can remember it, it was like I was driving and I noticed the name of the grocery store, Winn-Dixie. I'm like, what do you want Dixie to win? The war? And then, so the other piece of the joke was, and if you look, Win is spelled with 2 N's. We all know what the other N stands for. Win, Dixie. It's pretty dark. Pretty dark, and it hits a place. But that was one of I enjoyed doing the Winn-Dixie joke. It's all Winn-Dixie down in Florida, Orlando, where I spent a couple of days. Wasn't able to go to the actual Hula Bowl. I had to get back because I had another show in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Battle Creek Church in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma for one of my favorite events to do, date night. We did a date night comedy show. It was myself, another comedian, Johnny W., and Ted Cunningham. I always enjoy working with other comics. Oftentimes on the road, it's just me. So anytime I get to work with other comics, it's a pleasure. And I had a great time. It was my rebound gig. That time in at the date night, I was Georgia. I was Georgia at the date night. I was not TCU. So that was on the road, and I'm this week getting prepared for a couple of shows. So I'll share those in the upcoming podcast. But as you burn the tape, baby. Now, let's get into the best advice ever. So the best advice ever that I would share with you is something that I learned as a young man. And it's actually something that's scriptural out of the Bible. I was reading. And so anytime, if you think about advice, the Proverbs have great advice. And so the best advice ever is stop talking so much. Hey, man, you're talking too much. So in Proverbs, there's scripture in Proverbs 17, 27, and 28. I have the King James version. Read! That's how they used to do it back in the Pentecostal church. The pastor would be doing his sermon. And so every time he referred to a scripture, he would yell out, read! And someone would He that hath knowledge spareth his word. Stop right there. And so they would preach. He that has knowledge. This is a man of learning. This is an intellectual man. So they would preach. Then once they would finish exhortating, they would yell, read again. And then the person would continue reading. But I'm not doing that. He that has knowledge spareth his words. A man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise. And he that sheddeth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. So I saw this happen in real time. So as many of you, I might have mentioned, at our building, we have a headquarters building where my office is located, where I record the podcast. That's why I'm in here. We had a water pipe burst, flooded. So we had folks inside the building cleaning the building. I had this contractor come, great contractor. He has folks that he hires to come and do some of the cleanup. So I'm sitting in my office doing some work, being a diligent man of understanding. And to not expose the uninnocent, there's a person that works in the building also, and this person is related to everybody. So this person is doing work, and I'm just sitting in my office, and I hear, and there's folks that's doing the cleanups. They're moving stuff, they're throwing things away. I don't know these folks. Never met these folks a day in my life. They were hired by the contractor to come in and do the cleanup. I greeted the folks. I've talked to them. I was like, hey, they asked, hey, do you have some trash bags? Very superficial interactions, very cordial. Hey, let me know if you need anything, that type of situation. So I'm sitting in my office, and the other person that works inside the office strikes up a conversation with the folks. And in less than 5 minutes, this person has told everything about that. I'm a comedian. My daughter started, my daughter and my wife started this hair barrette thing. My daughter's in the 10th grade. Like personal information with people that's just here to do a job. There's a lot of information in no time. So I'm texting the person like, hey, please stop talking. Please talk about the weather. Please have a conversation about something that's not personally attached to our family. What are you doing? Stop talking, people. That's the advice I want to share with you. You don't have to. Part of it, I think part of it, and I've had to learn this personally. Part of it is nervousness. You want to impress, so you keep talking, you keep saying things, you keep rambling on. I was watching something on Instagram, and the guy was talking about men that get nervous around attractive women, and they just keep like they just keep talking, and I think that's a real thing. Like, just be confident and comfortable in who you are. Just stop talking. My grandmother said the reason you have 2 ears and 1 mouth is you should be listening more than you're talking. Just stop talking. Silence is golden. It's golden. I had to tell myself this for the podcast. People, y'all know it was going too long. I was doing too much talking. Come on, man. Get to the point. Keep it moving, broham. Quit having diarrhea of the mouth. It's okay not to talk. It's okay to spareth your words. And if you don't have that skill, I would encourage you to practice it. I would encourage you to be deliberate about turning off the faucet. Think about Why? Even brushing your teeth. I learned that sometimes we run the water while we're brushing our teeth. You're wasting water. So if you're not using the water, turn the faucet off. Stop the faucet. Don't. If no, they say, hey man, where you from? I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. Oh man, South Carolina's cool. I'm not saying I'm from Columbia, Carolina, but I live in a town, Irmo. Irmo is in this subdivision. I don't live that far from the mall. You know, the mall's right. Hey, bro, I just asked where you was from, my guy. You know, right around the corner is the Total Wines. Sir, stop talking. Simmer down. Zip it. Zippy, zippy. Zip it up. Zip it up. So that's the advice. The best advice ever is to stop talking. If you find yourself in social settings, you find yourself in interaction, even Uber. Like I guess it's an option to not talk to the people. I talk if you want to talk. But like the scripture says, even a fool is considered to be wise if he keeps his mouth closed. I've seen it. I don't know if we've all seen. I've seen it. Seen people that are talking, and before they were talking, be like, "Man, I thought that was a sharp person. I thought that was a pretty smart guy, pretty smart girl." Person's crazy. So that's the best advice ever. Hope that will give you a tool to put in your toolbox. And so as we transition to the next part, I enjoy this part. What you're not gonna do. This is the what you're not gonna do. I saw something in the paper I wanted to highlight it because it was absolutely ridiculous. For those of you that don't know, what you're not gonna do is a make-believe word. 5 syllables, one word. Is a word I heard a lot growing up. And if I were to define what you're not gonna do, if I would give you a definition of what that was, it's basically a warning. It's something that says, hey, that's probably not the best course of action. So if you're in a car, especially with a black man, and you go to reach for his radio, what you're not gonna do is touch my radio. Don't touch black man's music. It's a warning. What you're not gonna do. So I saw in the paper, I don't even know. This was the top catches of 2022, and it's basically things that TSA found in luggage. And I'm not going to do all of them. There's 10 of them, but there's some ridiculous things that the TSA. Because I'm always, when I go through TSA, I'm thinking, what are y'all looking for? Because I'm being selfish. I'm thinking that Mike Goodwin's not smuggling drugs. Mike Goodwin does not have any weapons in his carry-on. So why do I have to? But apparently there are people that are, and so I will submit my luggage to interrogation because there are people carrying things that have no business carrying. A couple of them. A grenade in Milwaukee at the Milwaukee Mitchell Airport, July 29th. A grenade. You pull the pin and you throw it, it explodes. Was found in somebody's luggage. Peanut butter firearm. Officers found disassembled parts of a handgun wrapped in plastic and a magazine loaded with ammo inside jars of peanut butter at JFK. This was December the 22nd. A grenade. A disassembled handgun in jars of peanut butter. And a gun inside of a chicken. Those are the 3 I'll share. The TSA, this was November the 7th. They experienced an unpleasantly early Thanksgiving feast when they discovered a handgun stuffed inside a raw whole chicken at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Come on, man. What you not gonna do? is smuggle weapons, drugs, fentanyl. Somebody put fentanyl in candy boxes. That's what you're not gonna do. Here's another what you're not gonna do that I learned. And shout out to my buddy Trey Brave. I think I'm gonna be talking about Trey Brave every episode. So I just had a conversation with someone about I take pictures with fans, and oftentimes fans are women. And so one thing I just had a conversation about was if you're taking a picture, put your hands on their shoulders. You need to have your hands being shown, right? And so that just becomes it's similar to what the scripture says, let your good not be evil spoken of, right? So when I'm taking a picture, I'm taking a picture. I'm trying not to smile too hard. I'm very sweaty. It's typically after a show. I've performed. There's probably other people. So I'm not thinking about, can these people see my hands? Because the thing is, at some point, folks will say, man, Mike Goodwin was grabbing my butt or he was touching me. And what's absolutely mind-numbing about that to me is you got to know me and my story about my wife to know that if someone comes out and says, hey, Mike Goodwin was grabbing my butt, you have to know that person's a crazy person. Because and the quick part of my story, especially as it relates to my wife, me and my wife went to college together. And when I first got to college, I was not a good, I'm not good, that's not even the word. I was not a Christian man. I was not an upstanding, righteous man. I was, for the streets, I was doing very street-like activity. I like Jay-Z says, Jay-Z, the prophet, I like girls. So my wife saw and heard many of these stories. So I committed myself to when I proposed and my, we've had conversation about how she felt about me and the tales and the stories that were heard. And I committed to myself, like I'll never put my wife in a position where she ever thinks or have to be concerned about another woman or women, right? And so I had a conversation with someone who was encouraging me to have my hands where you can see them in pictures. And so I got to be more mindful of that. But I personally, I'm like, bro, I'm 47, bro. I'm not grabbing people on their butt. If you can't see my hands, just think positively, like my hands. And when I do take pictures, I ball my hands up and I like sit them on people's back. But my buddy Trey Bray's always like, there you go again. Like I'm doing very nefarious things with these women. I'm not. We just taking pictures. But yeah, I get it. So what I'm not gonna do is have pictures with beautiful women and you don't know where my hands at, because the people like, it's me, I'd be rubbing this woman up. I'm not rubbing these women up. My wife is more than enough. It takes more than enough activity and energy to be able to meet the demand at my house. I have insufficient funds on the road. Nothing to give. All right, folks. And before we roll out of here, I'm gonna give you the podcast word of the day. And I saw this word, I found it to be very interesting. It's exorius. Exorius. Yes. UXORIOUS. Exorius. And that basically means a very submissive husband. A husband who is is whooped. That's one of the words that people use. Whooped. Who's very subservient to his spouse. Speaking of spouses, that's the exorius is the word podcast word today. And speaking of spouses, I'm always starting new segments. So this is a new segment I'm going to introduce and basically call flowers. I think we need to give people their flowers while they can smell it. So shout out to my beautiful wife, the wife that is the wife of my youth, the wife that I am more and more and more enthralled with romantically than I've ever been in my life. She is the twinkle in my eye, the apple. She is the honey on my bun. Rosalind Goodwin, the mother of our children, my daughter and son, and just one of the best people that I've had the privilege to know and spend my life with. So again, man, thank y'all so much. We've reached the end of another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. I think I got a little bit over the 30, but we right in the range. We got some grace. I would love for you to send in questions. If you have a question, you can send questions in at info@comedianmikegoodwin.com. That's info@comedianmikegoodwin.com. Would love for you to like, share, subscribe, tell people about the podcast. Tune in, give reviews. All the reviews. I would love to have reviews. They're very important for me to grow the audience and let people know what I'm doing out here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast with your boy, Mike Goodwin. Peace.